Jack Gold, joined as always by my guy Matt. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. We just finished up these games and I cut on the Warriors and they're getting their butts kicked. So it's a regular Wednesday night for me. Yeah.
suffering Warriors, Titans fan, everything.
And
Just
and I picked ETSU today.
yeah.
It's a
So
rough life over here.
yeah. So we're sitting. We have a what are you now? Big loser, probably what 9-4 versus 13-0. Did get potentially? I did get called out in our picks for taking the favorite in every single game. I promise that wasn't the plan. I sat down. I mean, I thought about. I slept on it actually last night. I had the graphic made with all Matt's picks and three of my picks. I could not pick on ETSU, Western Carolina, and UNCG Sanford, and I finally just went with it. I think Western went with my heart,
Yeah.
and UNCG Sanford. I think I just kind of picked to be different because I convinced myself enough. So, but let's start off right now. We'll preview some of the games coming up tomorrow. We'll start off with tonight. That's Wednesday night. We had three games. Um, Mercer lost at Wofford 74-73 late game. Um, some controversy there. Western Carolina took down ETSU on the road 80-66, and Furman took down the Citadel at home 82-68. We'll start with Furman because Furman has disappointed. I mean, there's not a good word to put there. Even though they looked decent tonight against the Citadel, they're now what 7-9. Yeah, 7-9, I believe. Um, but it's been a weird season for Furman. Dealt with a ton of injuries, and then got some players back still without Marcus Foster. He's coming back and into SoCon play there. Tough matchup versus UNCG, but then come into a winnable game versus Chattanooga, who's good, but still isn't really on that top tier of team, and get run out of the gym. Matt, you were there. What were your takeaways at that game?
Yeah, that was a rough game to watch. They Alex Williams hit a short jumper with about 14 minutes left in the first half, and they didn't score from the field again until there was like 3 minutes left. I mean, Chattanooga was making it difficult defensively. Um, they look a lot better with Trey Bonham out there, but that's kind of besides the point. But um, Furman just was not able to get any easy looks that night, and you could kind of tell that JP Pegues was shaking off some of the rust. He went 6 for 21 and 1 of 8 from, or sorry, 0 of 8 from three. So he just wasn't there. And then Alex Williams kind of got going early and then never expanded upon it. This team really needs Marcus Foster back. Um, they just don't have the scoring that they need to, especially inside without him. Um, but yeah, they're looking at a little favorable stretch, and they got it done tonight. Offense looked a lot better tonight, but you know, eventually you're looking at a back to back with Western Carolina and Samford. So maybe if you can get Marcus Foster back somewhere in there, you can be all right. But they're already 1-2 in conference play, so dropping two more this early in the season might not be a good look for them.
Yeah, they've got to get healthy, and we've said that a bunch. But at this point, it's really becoming a thing of maybe if not when, and I still think they're going to get healthy. But it's almost they need time to gel as a team, and if they can't all be healthy out there playing, and get some consistency in the lineup and in role development and game by game, who's going to be taking the big shots, who's going to be taking the majority of the shots. um, I just think they're going to struggle going into the year, and like you said, in a big matchup. The good thing is the expectations are have already been brought down a ton now. Like they're obviously not going to meet the expectations they had preseason of winning the league in the regular season. But so that takes a little bit of the pressure off for me, and I kind of like that for them because there's no shot they can get a at-large bid. Like it's obviously been out of,
No.
and preseason you would say hopefully maybe they can compete for one. They've been a team that has sort of the past few years, but I like that for them, and just that, like we're saying, I think it's going to take some time to to get right. Tonight Alex Williams has a big game, 26 points versus the Citadel. And while I've always been super impressed with Alex Williams, I also think sitting there watching it, he shoots a lot of heat checks. Kind of, he really thinks he's the man, and that's a great quality to have as a player. Just that confidence and that green light obviously has been given to him by Bob Ritchie. But at the same time, when Marcus Foster gets back, and I mean, you think Marcus Foster's probably looked at as more of the guys over Williams, but I think it's a 1-2-3 in him, Pegues, and Foster. But at the same time, it's like, does that work? Is Alex Williams going to be able to take 15 to 20 shots? All three of them take 15 to 20 shots with everyone else kind of taking a back seat to them because they've got PJ Smith who likes to shoot it. Carter Witt likes to shoot it. I'm really interested to see how that plays out. Secondly, I didn't even talk much on the Chattanooga Furman game. I left that game, and maybe we can transition here to talk about Chattanooga a little bit as well. But I left that game thinking it was more of a Furman loss than a Chattanooga win, if that makes sense. I think I saw a lot of people talking about Chattanooga's defense. Furman was just throwing up bricks. Like, sure, the defense, but you don't just go from being a below average defensive team that Chattanooga pretty much always is and has been this year. You don't just flip the switch like that. And what they have in the first half of that game? 20 points Furman had, and it was a
Hmm.
absolute struggle to even get that. That just doesn't happen. I saw a ton of bricks, and PJ Smith finally started to hit some, or not PJ Smith, JP McGee started to hit some shots there late that made started making things sort of scary for Chattanooga. But it's crazy what they win by, almost 20 points there. I just didn't leave impressed with either team, if that makes sense. Do you feel the same way about that game?
Yeah, one last thing on Furman before I get into Chattanooga is in the Chattanooga game, Furman had 6 assists on 19 made field goals, and they shot 4 of 33 from 3-point range. Tonight, the offense kind of came back to life a little bit. They had 28 assists on 33 makes. So something to think about when they start to move the ball is when their offense is at their best. But Chattanooga, you said before we started recording, like, are they good? Like, we have no idea. Obviously, I just mentioned, but bringing Trey Bonham back is huge because it allows them to do some things defensively, maybe hide on or huff a little bit. But you just never know with this team, like, what if you're gonna get like their first half team or like their second half. Like, you don't know what you're gonna get with them. um, they were up big. They got up as much as 27 against Furman, and we were just sitting there like not comfortable with your chat like the whole time. Like, you were scared that Furman was going to catch fire at some point, and it wasn't until Furman got it down to like 12 with about 4 or 5 minutes left. And you weren't comfortable if you were Chattanooga, and then you make a few plays, break the press down the stretch to get out of there. But yeah, we really have no idea what Chattanooga team is going to show up night in and night out.
Yeah, that's the thing with them, and theirs is almost kind of like what we're talking about with Furman, where they're going to have to get some consistency in the lineup to figure things out. Chattanooga has had that consistency at this point, and they still haven't figured things out. It just doesn't feel like watching that game. I mean, who played well for Chattanooga? It's the question in that game, and it doesn't really fit. If just didn't feel. I mean, Millen
Millen
had
was good, but
16.
that was about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. I just didn't leave that game feeling well, even though they beat a team the game obviously meant a lot to them. But you see alumni and everybody, guys who used to
Oh
play on
yeah.
the team and everybody, that's become a underrated rivalry here in recent years. But I just don't know what the answer is and I can't pinpoint what they have to do, if that makes sense. I think Tyler Millen has been a lot better here to start SoCon play than he was early in the year, and I think that's kind of one thing that's really improved. I think it's cleared up a lot, to me at least, and it hasn't the coaches. They started Randy Brady the other night,
That's
and
when you
he
know you're
plays hard.
desperate.
Seems
Hmm.
like a good dude, but I think the 3 spot kind of has to be Tyler Millen or Noah Melson, the freshman. I can't figure. I just don't. I don't see the. I think Demetrius Davis has to play some more. You have to continue to give him chances just because what you've seen he can do. He can get 20 points. Last year he did it a lot, but man, he struggled bad. And it's really sad. You really hope to see some development there. Everything he does, I mean, he looks worse in about every aspect of basketball from what he was last year, and it clearly to me looks like a confidence thing. That's not me saying he got significantly worse, but it's just really that I think that's what's really bothered them is I think you can count on Bonham and Huff almost every night. I think Huff has gotten a lot better having Bonham out there, not being the sole, offensive engine. And you can count on Sam Alexis even if he's not scoring to make a big impact on the glass and defensively. And along with that, that's maybe one of the solutions. I think they need to get him the ball more. He's pretty pretty great post scorer. I think that goes underrated is that he doesn't really get much ran for him. He just kind of randomly will get the ball on a post up and seems to score it about every time. Um, he's super impressive. Jan Zedek is the most up and down player of all time. He's
Yeah, I
probably
was
the answer at that
I
4
was about to
spot. You
talk
can talk
about
more about him.
Jan. Is like Dan Earl mentioned in November, like mid-November, that it was kind of a struggle for him to rotate Jan and Sam Alexis together, and it really doesn't feel that he's figured it out yet. Zedek only played 15 minutes against Furman, and he wasn't on the floor for most of the last 8 to 10 minutes of that game. As they went with Sam Alexis, and then Randy Brady or Demetrius Davis was on the floor most of the time. And they're throwing these lineups out where you have like Rudy Fitzgibbons, Randy Brady, and Demetrius Davis all on the floor together at the same time. Like that lineup probably is not going to produce very well offensively. So there's a lot for this team to still figure out, and it starts with Dan Earl trying to find the right rotation that works for them.
Yeah, I agree. I can't, and that maybe their problems. Some of them relate just to being a Zedek problem, like you said. They were saying on the broadcast um, how he wants to be a 5 basically, and he's struggling adjusting to the 4. And while I understand that in theory, he's a graduate student. He's in his 5th year of college basketball, and he's 6'8", 6'9". You got to learn. You got to be able to play the 4. As much as I would love to say he could play the 5, he's not. Just like you said, 15 minutes in the game, and he's too valuable of a scorer to only be able to play 15 minutes. But he's not better than Sam Alexis. He might be able to score a little more than him at times, but Alexis makes such a difference on the glass and on defense.
Hmm.
That's really something they've got to figure out. Is he's got to figure out how to play the 4, how to guard the 4, how to insert himself on offense at the 4 without having to, play on the block. It just feels like a lot of things they're just struggling with a lot of things right now that it's confusing to a point at this point because they've had everyone there um, up to this point. So moving on, second game, we're going to talk about Western Carolina took down ETSU, probably the game of the night coming into the night. They took them down 80-66 on the road. Vontarius Woolbright, Mr. SoCon, going to win Player of the Week, potentially go after Steph Curry's record. He goes for 20, 13, and 9. Jaden Seymour with 24 and 7 for ETSU. You watched that game, so did I, Matt. What were your thoughts on that one?
First takeaway, Cole Spivey tweeted this, but Woolbright was robbed of the UTSU stat team of a triple double. He did get it, so I would give it to him if I was there. But I picked ETSU in this game. I thought their length defensively could get them could cause some chaos for Western Carolina and get them out in transition and things like that. That is not what happened at all. They were just unable to, speed Western Carolina up off of their pace. And um, my biggest takeaway is the shot selection for ETSU is awful, like all game long. They just early in the shot clock, or like it's just one guy standing on the wing and he does like one hezzy and then takes a three with like 18 seconds left on the shot clock, or they're just taking like a long fadeaway two. They had so many chances late in that game to, make a push and get back into it, and they just chucked up a bad shot, and Western Carolina got out in transition and, got easy buckets. So really disappointing performance, especially for me from ETSU today.
Yeah, I agree because I almost picked ETSU. That I was that close to taking them to win the game. I thought Woolbright, his style of play, and I think they ETSU kind of found something with uh, running their big Park, putting him on him and just putting a ton of length on him and not letting him. He's not going to 6'11" ton of length. He's not going to score the post over that a whole lot. But I thought him and Jaden Seymour would do a great job on Woolbright. But I think ultimately the difference and why I don't think anyone can beat the version of Western Carolina that we saw tonight is that Trey Jackson and Russell Jones Jr. are knocking down shots efficiently, and I mean it's fun to watch both of them. I think Trey Jackson he wins the superlative like smoothest player in the SoCon award or most fun to watch. I don't know. Every time he gets the ball, like when he's hot and he's just like navigating screens and just stopping on a dime and pulling up, you just know it Ash the way he don't even know just his form. He catches anything in rhythm, shoots anything in rhythm. It's cash, and they are a different breed, a different team. If Trey Jackson is shooting the way he is lately, it's exciting to me because I picked a sleeper to player of the year, which is not happening because Woolbright is putting up historic numbers, but still. With him playing the way he is, Russell Jones Jr. has been awesome all year. We've had plenty of talks about him and the player he is. With Trey Jackson playing the way he is, knocking down shots, he had a big game the
They're
other night as well.
scary.
Man,
Hmm.
they're going to be tough to beat, and that's the team. That's what led me to pick them to win the SoCon. I watched them in the SoCon tournament last year. Looked like things clicked with Jackson and Woolbright. Woolbright doing the same stuff, work post Jackson off screen and roll stuff, catching stuff in rhythm, just hitting all of his pull up middies, hitting all his threes, both catch and shoot and pull up shots. He started this year shooting low 30s from three. He's probably going to finish it shooting 40% from three. And with a guy like that as your number two, that's really hard to beat. Um, I just don't know. The one weakness I found with Western Carolina that I've gone back and forth on a ton, man, if I was a Western Carolina fan, I would probably cry myself to sleep every night that Ty Claude had to go to
Mm,
Georgia Tech. That they pulled him away with probably, I guess, some NIL money. I don't know who was paying for Tyshawn
you're right.
Claude to come. He comes off the bench at Georgia Tech and doesn't play a ton. He gets 15, 20 minutes a game. And I wonder if I'm sure he doesn't, but I wonder if he regrets it at all leaving because right now he'd be on. I think Western Carolina with Tyshawn Claude be the best mid major team in America. Like I don't
Oh,
know if
yeah.
there's another team, but that's my problem with their bigs. We'll stop reminiscing on what could have been. Just like my Jake Stevens, Malachi Smith, what could have been duo at Chattanooga a year back. But man, it's just hard to. Charles Lampton is great defensively. Like he's just really, he's protecting the rim. He's blocking shots. He's getting rebounds. But that dude cannot catch a ball for anything, dude. I don't know if I'm Western Carolina at practice. His role is so little. I mean, I think he's the lowest player on the team in Ken Palm's usage rate numbers. I was
Oh
looking it up the
my.
other day. He's got the lowest percentage of possessions used or something like that. That's because all he does is play defense. But
Yeah.
dude, if he could just catch a dump off and dunk it here and there, it's almost like if you run, if I was guarding the screen and roll and somebody's gonna figure this out, I would just pray for him to do something. Just fully commit to the guys and pray for him to do something because he cannot catch a ball. And I truly hate it for the guy. And hopefully he can at some point develop some hand-eye coordination. But some guys just can't. I mean, And in all honesty, you've played basketball, I've played basketball. There's just some guys that can't catch a ball. And that's
Yeah.
his biggest flaw because he's got
Hmm.
so much length. He's so good defensively at blocking shots. But anytime someone dumps something off to him, he gets a big offensive board. He cannot go up
It's
and finish
rough.
it. And I hate it for him because then they got Cornelius Williams, who's the same way. He's just
Hmm.
less of a defensive. I don't know. I'm shocked by that because he was a big time recruit for a mid major at one point with Murray State. I followed Murray State a lot. Got the cup right here. It's where my dad played college ball. But at one time he was a big recruit for Murray State to get, and Matt McMahon said, "Come to LSU." Like that's how good he was. They thought he could, develop into a player at LSU. He can't catch a ball either, and his athleticism helps him a little bit, but he's not the defender that Lampton is because Lampton's got so much length. And then you got Colin Granger, who's the complete opposite.
Oh, brother.
Opposite. He can't do anything on defense. He just gets cooked on defense, and he's got a high turnover rate actually too. I was looking at that, and I've noticed that too a little bit. That's part of why I was looking at it with WCU. He seems to turn it over a little bit too much, but at least he can catch the ball and finish some dump offs. It's just everyone brings. I mean, Lampton brings great defense, and that's why he starts, and why he probably needs to take the load of the minutes. But I mean, those three guys, I really can't sell myself on either of them, any of them as end of the game players. Even it's almost got to be Bernard
Hello.
Pello, who is
Hmm.
not really big. He's a wing. He's got some size. He's 6'8", but he's not that
Right.
strong. Doesn't play
Hmm.
that strong. But it's almost got to be him, and then he's got to lock up because he's the one guy that can score and can defend at a level that's not hurting you on. He's not hurting you on one end of the floor like these other three guys are. All
This is
right, next
weird.
we'll talk about the third game of the night tonight. Wofford takes down Mercer 74-73. Looks like Mercer was going to get him. Well, actually, looks like Wofford was going to walk away with it at one point. I think they were up 8 with 3 minutes left. I watched the majority of the game. Just had it on. I've got a triple monitor set up in here for my SoCon hoops. But looked like Mercer was going to win it, and looked like Wofford was going to win it, and then they fell apart. Really gave the game away to Mercer. Then Mercer gets a big bucket late, and then they get the foul call. Corey Tripp gets fouled. Matt, let's start with you. What were your thoughts on that foul call there to finish that game? I think I know what they are.
I did not like that call in the slightest because, the defender didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but it was the ref on the backside should have made the call because in front of the ref on the baseline was like a bunch of guys going for the offensive rebound, so he couldn't see anything. But the guy on the sideline didn't make a call because he didn't think there was a foul, and the guy on the baseline decided to take it out of Mercer's hands and call that foul. So I didn't like that one. I was very impressed with Mercer, especially, Coach Gary's adjustments in game. Because if you look at the run that they made, four of the five guys on the floor were, you know, that guys that came off the bench tonight. So, he found something going with that group and he let them stick it in. It was, Thomas and Hunter and Cobb, and then Davis and Holt were all in there.
Yeah, crazy that
McCreary,
finish was without McCurry.
I don't know what's going on with McCreary. He played 10 minutes tonight.
He had the
Ma-
flu recently, but
Okay, that makes sense. But
but still, it's confusing.
for them to get
He's
back in
he's
that game,
active.
yeah, I just deactivate him. But for them to get back in that game with that lineup, it seems like Coach Gary may have something, in the future, but it's the same kind of thing we said with Wofford is you got to bring those guys back. But it was a good game. They kind of just took it out of Mercer's hands and gave Corey Tripp the two, but it is
Yeah,
what it
that
is.
was a terrible call, and I've got some things to say. I love Corey Tripp. That's one thing I wanted to say. Watching him play, a lot of the stuff he does is kind of effortless. He's a fun player to watch. His jumper is so smooth. But that was a terrible call. I knew you knew they were getting on the ball. He just scored a big bucket right before to tie it up. I believe Mercer comes down. David Thomas, I think, scored. and to tie it back up, actually, it was Mercer or Wofford went up, and then Mercer tied it back up. Dude, there was no shot in the world that um that was a foul on
No.
Mercer there. He got so Corey Tripp got so out of control and spun into nothing and lost the ball, and they call it the backside ref calls a foul. It just kind of sucks. But in saying that, Mercer got a good look from David Thomas to win the game. Um, so you can't be that hurt by it because you at the end of the day you did still get your chance there. Also wanted to say, Chase Cormier, they've got something there. He's a transfer from Northeastern, I think it is. I'm totally forgetting. It's such a random school, but he's a good player, and he's got that smooth lefty jumper. He's shooting. Let me pull it up. What the stats are now? He's shooting over 50% from three. He's butter from three. Catch and shoot, and I like him a lot, especially as a future player. He's just a sophomore. He had, I think, 12 points on like 4 for 7 from three tonight, and he's had a bunch of games where he's shot it well. I think he's a big guy, and that's something with Wofford as a whole. They're almost the opposite of the Citadel, and this will make sense. The Citadel plays hard, and they like just mash it in the paint. Like
Yeah.
every single guard at the Citadel is like a swole body, except for Elijah Moore. It's like some swole body that tries to post up and like score contested baskets at the rim, like just babying guys. Mercer, every guard is like some smaller guy that's pulling threes, and all of them can shoot. And I like that, but also, as we've seen with Chattanooga a little bit, like that can get you in trouble too. But I do like Mercer's ability there with some of those guys, because Cormier is somebody I haven't paid a whole lot of attention to, but I was super impressed with tonight. So now we'll talk about the next couple games. We've got Sanford at UNCG at Sanford, and Chattanooga VMI. We'll start with UNCG at Sanford. I took UNCG. You took Sanford. I went on a big out on a limb there. Sanford's been awesome. Obviously, the big deal with them lately is Jermaine Marshall torn meniscus. I saw on some message board. I don't know if that's actually been announced by the team. I know that he's hurt and he's out. Message board said he was out for the year. Guys at Sanford Scoop said not out for the year. I can say I've torn a meniscus before. Took me out for a whole year, and it was only supposed to be like 6 weeks, and it ended up being like 6 months, which I've got a broken down, battered body. So especially even when I was in high school. So, but I know that it's an injury that's hard to come back from. You think James Wiseman is a big name from a few years back that he tore his meniscus at Memphis and missed the whole rest of the year. I don't know. I feel like Jermaine Marshall is built different. He is a big, swole body,
I was
muscle
gonna
man.
say,
But
right.
but we'll see. I don't want to say that. I'm gonna go the rest of the year presuming he won't be back, and that's not like me reporting anything. But I'm just saying it's hard to rely on a guy, even if he does come back, to be himself. So the thing with Sanford, though, regardless of that, they've been awesome. Took down Chattanooga convincingly. AJ Staten McCray, particularly, has been awesome. And now they've got UNCG tomorrow night. You picked Sanford. Why'd you pick them? What do you feel so good about them for?
Yeah, I mean, Sanford has been so good at home lately. Um, you know, Macau Brown Jones might go for 40, but I still think Sanford will find a way. They run like a lot of stuff through their guards, and Graziani may have a hard time with whichever one of the Langleys he draws. Um, but AJ Staten McCray is just on a tear right now.
Yeah.
I think I tweeted the other day he's shooting close to 50% from the field and from three. Like he's insanely efficient, and I don't know how, they're going to find a way to defend him. Bucky McMillan at home is kind of hard for me to pick against. So, if a Chor can find a way to slow down Brown Jones just a little bit, especially when it matters most down the stretch, I think this is going to be a really fun game with, just contrasting styles of Sanford rotating 12 guys and running up and down the floor, and where Greensboro kind of like slow it down. And get it inside to MBJ. So, I struggle with this pick a lot too because it's really kind of just a pick 'em. Like those are probably the two best teams in the conference, and I just like Sanford at home with State McRae having another big game.
Yeah, I think you touched on it a little bit. I think a chore is going to be the key to the game for Sanford. I think he won the matchup with Sam Alexis the other night probably. Um, didn't I would say punked him or anything. Sam Alexis had a pretty good game on the boards, but he didn't score a lot. Um, he's got to slow down Mikael Brown Jones. They're both similar play styles. Can bang down low. Um, Chore's been awesome so far this year. Probably, I mean, he's an all SoCon player right now for sure. And if he keeps playing like that, we'll finish that way. But he's going to be key. He's got to step up to the level of player that we think Mikael Brown Jones is, and I think a Chore absolutely can do that. Um, I agree with you. It's going to be fun to see the contrasting styles. I looked it up. I was trying to get facts to support my thought that UNCG could win that one. And Keyshawn Langley's really low in turnover rate. Kobe Langley's middle of the pack. Jordan Sizono is middle of the pack. So I didn't get a ton of it. Donovan Atwell is really low in turnover rate, but all he does is shoot it, so it doesn't really matter. But I think he'll be for UNCG. I think Donovan Atwell may end up being the key for them because with Sanford full court pressing, those the Langley twins being quick guards for UNCG, I think Donovan Atwell is going to get a lot of good looks from three, quick shots, but he's going to get good looks, and that's what Sanford wants. Is wants to speed you up, wants those. I think a guy like Donovan Atwell also wants to shoot those shots. He likes catch and shoot no matter when, and if he can shoot it well, if he can hit 5 threes or something, which is not a wild thing for him at all. He's had seven, like 7 or 10 from three in a game this year. He very well may be the difference maker for UNCG in that one, and that's why I picked him. I think Mikael Brown Jones is going to be able to negate the impact that George Shores has. Like I just think at the very least they're going to cancel each other out, and I think the Langley twins can work offensively, and at the very least I think they can also negate those two guards, and I think it may end up coming down to can Donovan Atwell knock down threes. And for Sanford, can Staten McRae have another big game, a 27-point game or something like he had against Chattanooga? And if he does that, they're probably not losing that one. This might be. I said the other day, it might be the game of the year in the SoCon. It's
So far, 100%.
really good teams, and
Hmm.
there's going to be a lot of good games. This is we're truly a SoCon. People who watch the SoCon enjoyers, SoCon fans, blessed this year. There's a lot of good teams. I mean, there's legitimately in UNCG, Sanford, and Western Carolina right now. All three of them will it happen? Probably not, but all three of them could reasonably. You come back and tell me in a few months that one of them got an at-large bid. It's not going to happen, most likely.
Lucky.
Get it?
Hmm.
And why we want two bid SoCon. We want their respect. That's why we got this name. But all three of those teams, within reason, could get a bid this year. And we're halfway through the year, and that's not a normal thing. Normally, it's down to one team a lot of times at this point, maybe two. But they were all super successful throughout the non-conference, with Sanford playing a worse schedule via or Western Carolina probably having the most um, big wins. But there's going to be a lot of good games, but this one very well could be the game of the year. I truly think.
Yeah, one last note on this one. You hear from coaches across the league that, the Sanford style of play just doesn't stop. Like they just keep coming at you. So an important thing for Greensboro in this game is going to be how do they handle, Sanford's press when one of the Langley twins comes out, if
Yeah.
Keyshawn's on the floor and Kobe's on the bench, who else do you have to handle the ball that isn't going to get sped up, that's going to keep the offense, at their own pace and not play to Sanford's hand and how they want you to play and speed the game up. So it'll be interesting to see, who else handles the ball besides the Langley twins.
Yeah, for sure. And I part of me that made me choose it too is what did UNCG do all of last year? They made teams play their style. They slowed the game down, and obviously with them last year, they were very blessed with the guys they had. They had a ton of just fifth year seniors and veteran guys and built a really good roster for their play style. And they don't quite have the bench like they did last year. This year, I like some of the guys, but I don't love a ton of their bench. But they've got the Langley twins, Atwell, Brown Jones. They've got to take over that game and play their style of basketball. I don't think they want to get into an up and down match. Whereas, I mean, Atwell to a point may want to shoot those shots, but the rest of the team they can't do that, and that's going to be the key for them is whose style of play do they play, and I think the style they play, whoever gets their play style, I'm saying this a lot, I've said all the style of play, whatever. Whoever gets their play style played in that game, I think wins it. So if it's slowed down, UNCG defensive match, I think they win. If it's a press, turnover up and down, Sanford's going to win that one. So final game of the night, tomorrow night, is going to be Chattanooga VMI. We've talked a little bit about Chat. They've got to figure things out. And will it be tomorrow night? I don't know because VMI is what they are at this point. The struggling program. But we both got Chattanooga. Um, I do think games like that come at good times. I think when they played Tennessee Wesleyan, Chattanooga they got them at a good time where they try to figure stuff out. That's going to be a big game for Chattanooga at figuring out who the guys are. I hope Noah Melson gets more opportunity. I really like him. I think at this point, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, I think Noah Melson, you almost got to go with the youth movement. Noah Melson is giving you everything and probably even more than Demetrius Davis or Randy Brady has given him at the three. And he's younger. He's got 3 more years of college after this year. And he's obviously, I think his biggest flaw is that he's built like a freshman. If he puts on some weight, he's going to be a really good player at some point. I almost think you got to live with him getting a majority of the minutes. And Tyler Millen has played well; he's earned minutes, but that's a big thing is figuring out that 3-4 spot. Can Jan Zedek play the fours? He's just going to have to be the backup five, and if that's what he chooses he wants to do, that's fine, and he can make it somewhat of a difference off the bench in 15 minutes a game. But that's seriously, there's not room there's not room to take Sam Alexis out for a ton of minutes because he makes such a big difference on other ends. So that's all I got. You got anything else on that game?
Yeah, I mean, we were joking at the press table with Gene Henley, and he based at the Furman game, and he basically said, if Chat runs away with this Furman game, probably taking VMI, no matter no matter what the spread is or anything like that, because that's what this Chattanooga team has been so far, and I kind of agree to a point of what you just said, where their best lineup is probably one that includes Noah Melson. Yeah, he's a freshman. He'll make his freshman mistakes, but everybody does. Like that's part of the job. And so I would think their best lineup would be, Huff Bonham and then Melson at the three to get some kind of wing production, and then Zedek and Sam Alexis. So we'll see if Dan Earl is going with another different starting lineup tomorrow night. But I am going to disagree with Gene, and we did both pick
Yeah.
Chattanooga. So I don't know that they'll run away because they may only play 20 minutes of basketball, but we are taking Chattanooga.
Yeah, no, I think Millen's earned some minutes, but I agree with you. You said about freshman mistakes from Melson. The thing is, Demetrius Davis is in his last year of eligibility, and he's making
He's
mistakes.
making.
I mean, it's not Randy Brady. I don't know if he makes as many mistakes, but there's a lot of times it's like, what are you doing? He's just
Hmm.
standing. Um, so
He
yeah,
doesn't look at the rim offensively
we
unless
can
he
talk about
catches the ball in the
mistakes.
corner.
Yeah, we can talk
Hmm.
about freshman mistakes, but the seniors are making mistakes too that are playing too. It's almost like,
Hmm.
all right, let's just let the young guy learn down there. And we talked about the starting lineup. I did want to say this. At this point, Bob Ritchie, he's got to be aware that he's making a new starting lineup every night, is he not?
Oh, he
He
has
said
to be.
they had another starting lineup tonight. They're 13th, the most in the NCAA. He's going for the record. There's no reason you didn't need a new starting lineup. Why did he move PJ Spitz to the bench? There was no need to move him to the bench for
Carter
Vanderwall and
Wood.
Huey and Garrett Heen to the bench. Like whatever.
I,
I
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with
I
your
feel
move
what
there.
I don't feel any particular way about it. But I do think it's funny. Like at this point, is he wrote down every possible starting five, and he's going to start every single one of them just to break some records. I think he might have that on his mind. He's trying to save. He's trying to save face. He could have got a high major job a few years back and didn't, or he was in contention. He didn't choose Furman like he keeps on telling the fans. He just didn't. There wasn't a good job for him out
Yeah.
there. That's the biggest lie ever. There wasn't a job worth taking. But now he's like, we're having a bad year. Let me just say that we broke a record in starting fives this year. Well, I'm only joking, but kind of. I do think he probably is aware of that. But that's all we got today. Short episode. Not a whole lot of big storylines so far, even though it's been a fun first week or so. But like I said in our picks, I'm 13-0 right now. Haven't missed a game yet, and I've took every single favorite. So it's not quite as impressive as a 13-0 would be. Not a single underdog has won in the SoCon. That's incredible that that's happened so far.
As I've
So
said on Twitter, I am rooting for chaos, so don't be surprised every week when you see me pick at least one dog. It'll never be VMI again, but I will continue to pick a dog of
hey,
some
I
kind.
joined in with you. I took UNCG. That they'll definitely be the underdog tomorrow night. So yeah, that's all we got today. Appreciate those that keep listening, keep tuning in. Let us know what you think in the comments. Subscribe, like us, rate us on all the platforms we're on. Also, I have been thinking about potentially doing some sort of live stream at some point on Twitter on the SoCon, 2-Bit SoCon account. After a big night or something. Let me know if you guys would listen because I would like to maybe I'll do a Spaces, but we can also do it on this platform we've got here. We can stream onto Twitter through their service or whatever. I know you can get it on Twitter and where it pops up in the feed. A video one, have questions, stuff. Let me know if you guys would want to do that because I think that'd be potentially something fun where we could talk about whatever on the spot there. If there's a night where there's big games or big results or stuff like that. So, but that's it for today. And thanks for tuning in once again. And we'll see you guys in the next one.